kind of build out video strategy for huge clients. I mean, we'd have a 30-second video that we'd price out for like $160,000 was one of the biggest projects we did. Ever since then, I've gotten like 3 to 5 new leads every week that reach out from just Google, that find me organically, that I do nothing to get those leads. I don't pay any ads. I don't do Google ads. It's all organic. So.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I've got my friend Ryan Snaadt on here. You, my friend, have just above 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. You're the owner of Snaadt Media Group. We were talking before the podcast started, but I came across him on YouTube. For those that have been watching this podcast, you know I used to own a photography, videography business. He does something very similar in the videography space. And I just wanted to get him on the pod and kind of, pick his brain about some stuff. But Ryan, go ahead and introduce yourself, man. How old are you? Where are you from? And maybe just give some insight into how you started your company.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Will. Appreciate it. So for everybody listening, my name is Ryan Snaadt. It rhymes with odd. I always tell people that because they have a hard time pronouncing it. But I am a 28-year-old video marketer based in Des Moines, Iowa here. So my company specializes in helping companies and the fitness industry help really build a marketing strategy around how to use video. I've been doing this for probably about 7 years, almost 8 years now. I always say my origin story with it all is I started in college. I was a sophomore in college and I worked at Target at the time. And I worked in the electronics area. So one day I saw a Canon T5 was on clearance. So I used my employee discount in my debit card to save 15%. And I bought this camera for like $500. And in that first year, shot a ton of projects around campus, little things here and there. And after 12 months, I made about 10 grand doing that. And I was like, okay, if I can do this, between school full-time, working part-time, my social life and everything, like what could happen if I did this more seriously? So fast forward to graduation, ended up getting a job at a production studio in Des Moines with about 20 employees and kind of created my own role there. So they were doing huge projects for grocery store chains. Berkshire Hathaway Energy, which is Warren Buffett's company, was one of our big clients. And I had a really good chance in that 4.5 years of working there to kind of build out video strategy for huge clients. I mean, we'd have a 30-second video that we'd price out for like $160,000 was one of the biggest projects we did. And I'm like, okay, if you can pitch a project for almost 200 grand for a 30-second video, there is just so much opportunity here. And it was a really good experience for me. So while I was doing that, those 4 years, I was shooting nonstop, nights, weekends. I'd take PTO to go do out-of-state shoots, especially the last year I was there. And it just kind of boiled up to the point where I was just like, I have to make a decision whether I need to go full-time in this or I need to really commit to the job. And I really love doing this. So put my notice in, and I've been doing it ever since. So it's been a fun ride so far. But along the way, I've been doing a ton of other projects, which I'm sure we'll talk about, with courses and helping give back on YouTube and my Facebook group and a bunch of other stuff like that. So
cool, man. Yeah, that's really cool. You mentioned you were in college. Where'd you go?
So I went to Simpson College, which is like probably 20 minutes south of Des Moines. It's a private, like a D3 private college down there. Gotcha.
Cool, man. Well, that's awesome. I envy people who kind of, take a risk and go full time. I have a similar story where it's like, you think you want to do something, you don't. You find something you never thought was really in your mind before you found it. You go full time, you take a risk, and it ends up working out. And I can say the same for you, I bet. But it's like the happiest I've ever been was when I took it full time. I'm doing what I love, and I'm earning an income from it. So very, very cool. Ryan, I came across a video of yours, and you were talking about some of the goals that you had the previous year in 2021, and then kind of doing a recap of if you achieved it in 2022. And one of the things was you wanted to increase your revenue by 50%. You ended up doing so, I think, was it 85%? I wanted to get some insight into how you did that, and kind of some different maybe streams of revenue you had, or maybe what are the things that, what are the main kind of drivers behind that, and how can somebody who sets a goal like that achieve it like you did?
Sure. Yeah. I think any goal that you have, one, it's got to be, you always talk about the SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, all those types of things. But for me, I knew that I was going to be committing to some different structuring in terms of pricing last year. So for me, I'm really trying to shift more away from just project-based pricing. So if someone reaches out to me about a video, it's like quote out a $3,000 to $10,000 project. They do the video, shake hands, and we never hear from them again. So for me, it was transitioning more towards a retainer model for my business, which is kind of a newer thing in the videography space. A lot of people are used to just flat rate pricing. So for me, that was shifting to a retainer model. And then it's just a matter of doing the math. It's like, okay, if I can get, 3 or 4 projects sold that are $2,500 a month, that's 10 grand a month that I'm making in recurring revenue. And if I can keep those locked in while still getting those smaller projects throughout the year, I can kind of back into those goals a little bit. So that's really how I did it in terms of like the nitty gritty. The other piece of it was just trying to land bigger projects and really focus in on quality and just making sure that I give my clients a really good experience. The third thing I would say would be really delving into, Google SEO, making sure my website's really well ranked so people can find me from out of town, and then really leaning into content creation to try and market myself to ongoing clients. So that really geared itself towards like LinkedIn specifically. I have a really pretty good LinkedIn following there, and that's where I get a lot of my inbound is from there. Mm-hmm. So
cool, man. Yeah, that was my follow-up question. You nailed it. Was how are you going to, or how did you market your business? And you touched on Google SEO, maybe some LinkedIn marketing as well. Can you dive a little bit more into that and kind of the specifics? I know that SEO for my agency is something I'm trying to explore at the moment, but it's more so just centered around creating a viral blog post, maybe creating some viral content in general that would drive people to your site. Can you give insight on how you were able to do that, and maybe some ways that somebody starting a new media company could do the same thing as well?
For sure, man. So I would say, in a lot of videographers that I talk with, because I coach a lot of them, it's like most of us don't know how to do SEO because it's kind of daunting. My site is hosted on Wix, so I'm not some I didn't hand make it on WordPress. It's like very templatized. I made it as well as I could. But for me, the real thing is, okay, if someone's Googling, what would I want to pop up for? And for me, it's Des Moines videographer. That's the main term. If anyone's looking for a shooter in Des Moines, that's how I want to get found. So I've made my website Snaadt Media Group with the slash line Des Moines videographer. The main homepage is there's a services page. It says Des Moines videography all over it in the headers. I put it in the metadata. I have videos on YouTube that say Snaadt Media Group, Des Moines videographer, that have hyperlinked. And then so that's really the main thing, is narrow in on a key term, right? The second thing is putting in updated data and more information on the site so Google knows you're keeping things consistent. So for me, that's just posting more portfolio work, putting out some blogs and case studies about past projects. And then the third and final thing, which was a huge thing for me, once I did this one tactic, things kind of blew up in terms of getting new inbound leads. And that's just getting 5-star Google reviews. So many people don't have a Google My Business account set up. It takes 5 seconds to do. It's really easy. You just register your business and say where you're located. And then I just basically got a link that says, do you want to get Google reviews? Here's a link. So I copied it, put together a templated email to all my past clients. There's 300 people that I sent the email to that I've worked with in the last 7 years. I was like, hey, really appreciate working with you. Would love to get a 5-star review from you if you could, and just share some feedback about your experience working with me. It takes 20 seconds. Sent the link. And in the first hour, I got 35 new 5-star reviews. I was the number 1 ranked videographer in Des Moines by doing that. And ever since then, I've gotten 3 to 5 new leads every week that reach out from just Google, that find me organically, that I do nothing to get those leads. I don't pay any ads. I don't do Google ads. It's all organic. So super helpful tactic there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I love, just kind of about building a business in general, but also just the snowball effect. I think I'm a huge advocate for somebody that starts a business and stays consistent. I mean, consistency is key. I talk about it all the time on my channel. And for people that want to get rich quick, starting a business is 9 out of 10 times is, unless you're drop shipping, right? That's the one. It's that's not your thing. You're not going to get $1 million, you're not going to get $1 million a month retainer next month. But if you continue to add case studies and repertoire and kind of building your social proof, I guess, for your media company especially, the SEO, man, can kick in fast. And that snowball effect happens. You mentioned 35 Google reviews, I'm assuming from 35 different clients. That is nothing that you can do in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 2 months. So it's really just about staying consistent. And I love that it kind of paid off for you and kind of becoming no one to the number 1, ranked, at least Google ranked videographer in Iowa is pretty cool. Kind of straying away from your business and going towards more into a personal brand. I know that, YouTube is obviously the best place for content creation if you're a videographer, right? Can you touch on a little bit about how you've been able to build your YouTube channel up to where it is now, maybe some plans for the future, and then some different revenue streams? Because, while I think a lot of people will be interested out there, I too am trying to grow my YouTube. I'm curious as to how you've been able to do so. Yeah, just kind of touch on some different streams you got and how you were able to build it.
Sure. No, that's great. I think YouTube's definitely the best, not really well-kept secret, but people that are like really starting to get into making TikToks and Instagram posts and stuff, they're not really making money from it. It's just like this fun little thing where YouTube's really, if you want to make money online, that's the best way to do it. I've been on YouTube for probably the same length of time I've been making videos. I think the first one I uploaded was my first year. That's actually how I got into it. Was I got a GoPro for Christmas. My first video I ever put out on my channel was my study abroad experience. I did a quick vlog style things when I was in Europe for college. And then I started an entire year of 52 weekly uploads for a year of my workouts and the diet that I was eating in college, because I was really into bodybuilding and fitness, which I still am now. So I was documenting like everything I was doing. So that's like, if you look at my early videos on my channel, that's what it was. And I had like no views, maybe like 40 views at a time. So I took a break for probably a year or two. And then I was like, okay. And I started researching a lot. So the people that helped me a lot were Sean Cannell of Think Media. I'm sure you're familiar if you've done any research on that. And Sunny Lenarduzzi. So she's another one in Canada. She is a really well-known person that does really good at ranking stuff for YouTube SEO. And once I realized that YouTube's owned by Google, it's all search-based, and how do you make videos that when people, again, same thing with the business, if people are looking for certain search terms, what could you pop up for and really be intentional about it? So for me, my first video I tried doing that was, the topic was called GoPro photography. I looked it up. There was 1,300 people a month were searching it. There wasn't a lot of good reviews. I watched the top 5 videos, made notes, and then kind of tweaked them based on my things and made an ultimate how to take really good pictures on your GoPro video. That still is my highest watched video to this day. I think it says like 275,000 views, and really just leaned into YouTube SEO early on a lot of topics and kind of leaned it in that way. But for me with YouTube, with my personal brand, I wanted to gear it towards what would 20-year-old Ryan want to know about how to start a business and how to make money doing videography. So that's really like everything that I do on my personal brand channel was geared towards that. So it's like how to do pricing, how to do sales, marketing, like things that people in my industry don't talk about. And then just kind of dedicated myself to doing some videos. So the last year I've been trying to put goals. I have goals on my list over here of like putting out a weekly video on YouTube, but the business has gotten so crazy. It's been really hard for me to do that. And starting with courses and all this other stuff. So I've kind of fallen off the wagon of long form videos in the last 12 months, but have been repurposing all of my shorts, YouTube or Instagram Reels and TikToks into my YouTube Shorts. So I've at least been showing up in that regard. But I know the second half of your question was how am I monetizing? So for me, I looked at other ways that I could make money from YouTube, obviously AdSense, but that's like probably the smallest percentage of how I make money on YouTube. The number one thing was selling courses. So there's this big stigma around selling courses, all these like fake gurus and whatnot. For me, I tried to build out programs that could stand the test of time. 5-10 years down the road, they're still applicable. So the first program that I built was called the Start and Scale Videography Business Course, which is a complete mouthful. So after having no sales on that program for about a year, I invested in a bunch of other programs to learn how to build an online course properly. Ended up rebranding it to Solo Video Pro, which is my current program. There's about 100 lessons in there teaching videographers how to start a business and grow it to a side hustle and then a full-time business. So that was my flagship program. And then I also launched a couple other courses here and there. Another one is the 6-Figure Fitness Filmmaker program, which teaches videographers how to break into the fitness niche, which I've had a lot of success in, work with large brands, sports teams, that type of thing. So courses are the main thing. And depending on the year, it could range in income from like $20,000 to $40,000 or so. And again, a lot of those are passive, which is really nice to just get, an email notification someone bought your program, which is pretty cool. So that's probably my number one program number one way I'm making money is funneling people to my programs that I own and then I can sell to people. Other smaller ones that are there is like affiliate marketing. If I review a camera or I have camera gear recommendations, I promote those. A couple other smaller affiliate programs. And then here recently, I've had a couple brand deals where companies have reached out to me to do an honest review about their product. They send it to me or I get a free subscription to their software and then I just make an honest review and then they pay me for that. So those are kind of the main ways I'm doing it. The other biggest value, which I haven't mentioned, which I've been talking a lot, so I'll take a break here, but the last thing was building my lead list, which was super huge. So not only do I directly sell my programs through there, but I almost always push people to a webinar or a bunch of other free promo stuff that I've done with email sales templates, free LUTs, presets, a bunch of other stuff where I'm giving a ton of value for free. And from my YouTube channel alone, I get anywhere from 15 to 50 leads every week from just people opting in through my YouTube channel from the years. So it's been a super helpful tool for my business. It's been helping a ton of people at scale. I've had a lot of other opportunities come up, and it's been a really great tool for me to use to grow the business.
That's amazing, man. I love to hear it. And I think it just kind of, further pushes the envelope that digital products and kind of creating a personal brand, I guess, that is tied to your business is like the next, like that's what people need to start shooting for. And what I try to tell my clients that, like, for example, I have a client that runs an e-commerce business. He's a retired vet and he's like already retired. He has a massive Airbnb like empire, but nobody knows his name. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. You're rich. You're retired. You don't have to work for the rest of your life, but you could be like generational wealth if you started this, not only because it'll bring leads to your business and your Airbnb business, your e-commerce business, but also because you can start earning because you're just building social proof. You build these courses. You're a guy that owns, for your case, you're a guy that has one of the top ranked videography businesses in Des Moines, Iowa. And it's like, okay, I'm going to buy a video course from this guy because he's obviously scaled a business like that. And I think it's just kind of furthering proof that it does work. And for me, I started making YouTube videos around marketing and agencies in August. And as my agency continues to grow, I too get, like probably 10 leads a month just from people coming across my YouTube videos and e-commerce businesses. And it's just like such an untapped thing. But man, I think it just proves that YouTube is absolutely the way to go. And I think a lot of people try to prove that it's slowing down, but man, it's as big as ever. And if you're wondering if you want to start a personal brand, now is the time. And, the best time to start a YouTube channel was 5 years ago. The next best time is now. So I love that, man. Kind of straying away from YouTube though, and getting more personal. Bro, you had a baby last year. That's amazing.
I did.
Can you talk about just being a dad? Because golly, I'm young. I'm 23. I have a girlfriend, but we talk all the time about getting married one day, having a family, and I think it's just really cool to get the insight of somebody that's been there and done that. So I'd love to hear kind of how that's been and how it's going so far.
Sure. Yeah, it's been great. He's 8 months old now. He's finally starting to sleep through the night. It's the first 6 months were definitely tough. He's our first child, so it's just a lot of sleepless nights. Things kind of blend together, but it's been good. And kind of the thing that wove him into the business side of it was, I decided to leave my full-time job while my wife was pregnant with him, and our family thought we were crazy. He's like taking this huge leap, and it wasn't a leap. Like, I was making double, if not triple, on my side hustle than I was for my full-time salaried job, so it wasn't really that risky to do. But it was one of those things. I'm like, okay, like I got to do this now, because if I wait until he's born and then we'll just wait till he's out of diapers and wait till he's out of element, it's like you can't wait. You have to kind of jump. So for me, that's been kind of a fun challenge, but it's definitely, it makes it all worth it. It gives you kind of some perspective. A lot of people just want to, what's your motivation to start a business? And it's like, oh, I just want to make a ton of money. It's like, well, now it's like, I've got this little guy that's got to, he looks to me and I have to provide for my family, and it's a way I can do that. So it's kind of gives you some more perspective on things. So.
Absolutely. That's super cool, man. Well, congratulations. I think that's huge. And, like I said, as somebody who wants to do that in, a few years, it's always interesting to get the insight. And like, I've heard from several different people, like your whole world, you think you know what your whole world is, and then you have a kid, and it's like, just like, it's immediately, the switch is flipped. So very cool, man. Congratulations on all that. Kind of furthering into, your personal life and a little bit about some of your goals for not only your business, but personally as well. I've got a list here from your business goals on the recent video that I watched. But number one here is secure a commercial space. Have you made any progress on that? I'm going to go down this list and keep you accountable, my man. Have you kind of got into that space yet? And what's your progress on it?
Yeah. So I did lock in a commercial space on a 3-year lease probably about a month ago. So my wife and I have been redesigning that, painting, bringing in furniture, building out things. So it's a really good move for me in my business. So I've been working out of my home the last, however long, 7 years now. But having a commercial space has been a big goal of mine, and to have a place I can go that eventually I'll have my employees there with me, have a podcast studio space that I don't have to tear down and set up every time I want to do a pod with people, or my clients that I have to go set up remote podcasts every week for. I can kind of have that there, which is nice. And then just kind of have my own place that I can just really focus in. So that's been a big goal of mine. But there's a ton of things I've learned through the process, man. It's like, real estate's not cheap. And it's like, do I rent? Do I buy? No. Getting commercial internet versus residential internet. It's just like all these different things you just don't think about. But I have finally locked in a space, which I didn't realize was going to happen so fast. So we're into March. What is this, March 2nd? And I've already got the first one off the list. So that's
cool, man. Cool, man. Well, let's get to number 2. It's increased revenue by $55,000. It's hard to tell, right? Because we are only 2 months into the year, and so much could happen over the next, 8-9 months. But I guess 9-10 months. But what's the progress on that looking? Do you think you're on track, or how's it going?
Yeah, so like you said, it's going to be tough to know until the end of the year where we're going to land. But for me, there's some seasonality in my business. Usually January, February is a lot slower. And then as the spring and summertime comes around, there's a lot more work going on. People want to shoot outdoors a lot. But in terms of like projections, I think I'll be pretty close this year. It's just a matter of locking in some other people. So I just landed a really large retainer yesterday, actually. So once they sign the contract and get things going, that'll help get us closer there too. So again, for me, the execution side of it's just like, okay, I need to get 2 or 3 more retainers. I need to do X, Y, Z. And the funny thing is that retainer actually came from a Instagram reel that I posted that went viral that has like 170,000 views. So a guy found me from that, reached out, said, hey, can you do this for my business? We hopped on a call, and now we're doing it for his business. So just got to keep doing more of that stuff, and I think it'll work out.
Very cool. Very cool. And the last one on my list here is hire your first employee. I know you mentioned in the last video I watched that you hired 10 or 11 contractors, but you wanted somebody that would work under Ryan Snaadt Media. How's that looking?
Yeah, so I think that's a big goal for the year. And I know I'm in a business mastermind group, and I've been kind of running that question back and forth with people. And they've been really challenging me. It's like, why do you want an employee? And a lot of it is ego driven, which I realized after talking with them. And I was like, that's a good question, because I do have a lot of these 1099s. But I think even if I don't hire, and I haven't, to answer your question, I have not hired my first employee yet. There's a couple challenges there with paying, payroll out. There's extra expenses with that, withholding taxes and whatnot. But the other challenge is also just finding somebody that I can hand off a lot of this stuff to in terms of editing and shooting and stuff like that. So I have a great roster of 1099s that I use, though. So whether I hire them or not, I know I will get a lot more stuff off my plate, which was the goal of hiring somebody to do that. But I will definitely keep you posted on how that looks throughout the year.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, look, we're already 2 months into the year, and you've got one of your 3 goals checked off the list. That's pretty good, man. So zooming out a little bit, these are goals for this year. What are some long-term goals? For me, I try to write down, what do I want to do in a month? What do I want to do in a year? What do I want to let me rephrase that. What do I want to do in 5 years? And it's like I've got this whole plan mapped out. God 9 times out of the 10 has other plans, right? It's different for me and it's different for everybody. But what are some long-term goals that you have, not only for your business, but also, personally going forward?
Sure. Yeah. I think I'm a really big goals guy. So it's kind of interesting looking like this last year, I narrowed it down to 3 business goals, right? In the past, I had like 15. And it's like, I've noticed as I've gotten older, it's, the more specific and laser focused you are, the deeper you can go with something, and you're not spread so thin. So I think that's a big thing for me, just really being intentional. In terms of the personal side, my wife and I would like to continue to grow our family. We'd like to eventually, my wife really loves design and architecture, so she wants to design and build our kind of forever home. So from scratch, and have my family friend who owns a construction business build it from the ground up. So that's kind of a longer term goal for us from that type of stuff. But in terms of the business, I'd like to get to a team of 5 to 6 full-time employees, kind of a shooter, editor type combo person, producer, bring in a salesperson, and then an operations manager. And I can basically step out of the business in terms of production and start to focus on other things. I want to write a book. I want to continue to speak and go do paid speaking engagements. I want to, continue to do online education and produce content for people to help them, and freeing myself up to not have to be doing those executions every month would kind of help me with that stuff. So kind of build my little dream team, dream squad, getting people together would be pretty fun to continue to do those things.
Sure, man. Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. Kind of thinking about these goals as opposed to when we're first starting out, right? Because like similarly to you, my goals right now are very, very different from a year or 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I just wanted to figure out my life, and I'm 23, I'm young, I still haven't really figured out my life. I know that marketing agency and personal brand stuff and being an online creator is kind of where the path I want to go. But as I'm growing, you set these long-term goals where you're like, you got to take a step out, and the fact that now your long-term goals are hire 5 to 6 employees. Like if you were to tell yourself that 5 years ago, that's a really, really cool thing. So congratulations on all the success. And I think you will, man. It's cool. The people that are very motivated and kind of throw it out into the universe and kind of like speak it into existence, I never see them fail. And as long as you're consistent, you're providing high value, services to your clients, which you do. I've seen your work is going to be, it's going to be kind of inevitable. So, for somebody that is trying to get into what you do, a lot of people I think are interested nowadays in the whole online content creation, but also, photography, videography. I see more and more the popularity grows every year. For somebody that's trying to start out, I know you mentioned that Google SEO and kind of content creation SEO and YouTube SEO has been a huge part of your growth, long term for your business. How did you start your media company, and what was the marketing process like for that first, I guess from when you started to when you landed your first client, and how are you able to shift from, I guess, manually marketing to kind of having an automated system?
Sure, yeah. So I think that really how the business started for me was, like I said, I got a GoPro for Christmas, did my little trip, ran home, started editing it. I'm like, this is really fun. And then when I posted it, I had a couple people reach out and say, oh, I didn't know you knew how to edit videos. Could you help me with this project? And a lot of the first couple of projects were free. I was just doing them for fun. And then I started doing some things around campus. And kind of my first paid gig was for the local area Chamber of Commerce, was doing a video series of interviewing high-level CEOs in the area and kind of talking about how they've reinvested in the area and that type of thing. And they had like no money. They had like $400 to do this video series. And I was like, oh, sure, $400, sweet. Well, I didn't know it was going to take like 15 shoot days and like hundreds of hours of edit. I'm pretty sure I was paid like 30 cents an hour or whatever it was, which is fine. But in that process, I was interviewing, there's a guy that's literally a billionaire that lives 15 minutes away from me that started the Miracle Grow fertilizer company. I got to interview him. I got to interview presidents of colleges and CEOs of companies and stuff like that. And then through that, just being myself, they're like, oh, I didn't realize, like, oh, are you in college? Like, we'd love to shoot some videos. You should give me your contact information. And that's kind of how it all got started, was I started shooting some little lo-fi videos for these companies, and things kind of started to go from there. So I started as a solo entrepreneur. And then after, the first year of making, $15,000, $20,000, whatever it was, then I started an LLC, kind of got more serious about it, and then started to go from there. So that was kind of how it started. But I think a lot of businesses really get tripped up on like, how do you do that? Like every time I tell people I make videos full time, that's my full-time job. They're like, how do you get clients? Everyone's always curious about that. How do you do that? I'm like, there are so many people in your network. If everyone knows that's what you do, the people are going to be like, oh, I need a video. Let's shoot together. So, I started when I first got started, like I've done weddings, I've done company stuff, real estate. I've kind of dabbled in a bunch of different industries, and I've kind of ended up narrowing, like I said, on corporate and fitness because of the two things I love to shoot and the types of clients that I really want to attract. So for me, it's like word of mouth is always going to be your way of marketing. But if you can get more intentional about how people find you and steer the narrative, and kind of when people start looking and raising their hand, like saying, hey, I need somebody that does these services, if you can show up when they're at that point of interest, that's really how you're going to capture the most attention and get the most business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great advice. As we, get to wrapping things up here, I wanted to get some insight into, I know you mentioned you're so busy with your business, so this question may be just void, but is there any side projects that you're working on? This could be anything from, maybe kind of furthering your YouTube projects, or new courses or digital things you're doing on the side. Is there anything that you're kind of dipping your feet into outside of your actual, Snaadt Media Group right now?
Yeah, I'd always scheming on stuff. So I think the one thing I was looking at, this, like one of my long-term goals is to start a whiskey brand. So I love whiskey and bourbon. And I was like, look, I was investigating this a couple of years ago. So I have a buddy of mine locally that runs a distillery. So I was talking with him. There are so many hoops to jump through. I was like, okay. So I was like digging into that. I'm like, maybe I'll just side that project for a while. And then another one that kind of resurged here a couple of weeks ago was writing a book. So I started kind of a manuscript for a marketing book on helping entrepreneurs, business owners, marketers use video to actually like make money from it. So I'm still working on the title, still working on like getting the chapters ready. But the idea for the book would be called Video CMO. It's like Video Chief Marketing Officer type thing, helping people basically understand how to use video marketing to further their business. So kind of outline trends, tactics, things that I've learned along the way, and kind of helping people that way. So if I can get time to work on that stuff, definitely continue to write the book. I've also went down the road of like self-publishing versus going in with a publisher. And there's a ton of things I've learned along the process before I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole of that stuff. So those are kind of the two projects I guess I'll share that are like things I've been that have been tickling my fancy. Like, do I put a bunch of time into this, or do I just put it on the shelf for later? So
sure, yeah, I think it's fun, man. It's always interesting to see. Like, I would have never guessed you were gonna like try to dip your feet into the whiskey and bourbon industry. That's super cool. If you need taste testers, by the way, me and my buddies love that stuff. So
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, super fun. And I was looking into this local distillery, and I was asking them like, okay, if I can white label my own product, can I do that? And like, well, there's depending on which state you ship to, you can't ship alcohol to certain states, and there's certain legal things that you could get. You have to get a liquor license and all these. It's like so much upfront investment to do. Not to mention, if you want to create your own bourbon, you stick it in a barrel and leave it in a cellar for 7 years or more before you can sell it. So talk about a long-term investment. It's like, okay. So it's a lot of that type of stuff.
Yeah, cool, man. And as far as the book goes, I'd read that book. I'm looking for stuff to read right now. So let's keep in touch. And man, if you ever get that thing rolling out, please let me know. I will be your first buyer. I would love to kind of get into that space. Like I said, I'm super interested in the photography, videography space, and one of my long-term goals is to be a CMO of a publicly traded company. So I'll be a buyer, man. But Ryan, I think that about does it for me, man. I'm super excited to see where you go. I was super intrigued with not only your video skills, but you as a person when I came across you. And I think only good things come to the people that are consistent, that are good-hearted, that are kind of like, dedicated to their craft. And you are definitely in that space, brother. So thank you so much for coming on. I think this episode was super, super valuable. And for those of you that don't know Ryan, all his socials linked in the bio, and I'll link your courses as well too, brother. But thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.